The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber sparkled under the light of 3 suns. Inside, representatives from 27 advanced species sat in rising tiers around a central platform. The chamber buzzed with nervous energy as Ambassador Zreltix, a tall being with silvery skin, took the center stage. Esteemed members of the council, Zreltix's voice echoed through the chamber. The observational data is clear. The humans of Earth have advanced beyond our projections. Holographic displays appeared around the chamber, showing Earth's technological progress over the past century. They have moved from primitive combustion engines to rudimentary space travel in less than 100 cycles. Zreltix continued. Our models predicted this would take them at least 300 more years. Ambassador Lorvin of the Vraxians, a reptilian species known for their military might, leaned forward. This confirms what we've suspected. Humans are dangerous, unpredictable, perhaps merely resourceful, countered Ambassador Ilara of the scholarly Eldorans. Her delicate, almost translucent form shimmered as she spoke. We should observe longer before making judgments. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some argued that humanity should be welcomed as potential allies. Others insisted they represented a threat to galactic stability. You forget, Lorvin hissed, silencing the chamber. What happened with the Cortax civilization? They too developed quickly, and within a generation, they had destroyed 3 peaceful worlds before we could stop them. Ambassador Ilara stood firm. Humans show no signs of Cortax aggression. Their history, while violent among themselves, shows remarkable capacity for cooperation and empathy. Yet they consume resources at an alarming rate. Another voice called out. Their population grows unchecked. Zreltix raised his hands for silence. The Security Committee proposes a containment resolution. We establish a quarantine zone around their solar system and implement measures to limit their technological development. Interference violates our founding principles, Ilara protested. Lorgan's scales darkened with frustration. Principles won't matter if humans develop weapons that threaten us all. The Grand Counselor, oldest among them, raised his gnarled hand. We shall vote now. The evidence has been presented. The debate has been heard. Silence fell across the chamber as each member cast their vote through neural interfaces. The results appeared as a glowing display above the central platform. The resolution passes, the Grand Counselor announced. The Human Containment Resolution is now in effect. Admiral Corvo will lead the containment fleet, Lorvin said with satisfaction. Preparations begin immediately. Ilara stood, her form glowing with intensity. I formally register my objection. This decision may lead to the very conflict we seek to prevent. Objection noted, the Grand Counselor replied coldly. But the Council has spoken. The massive doors at the entrance of the chamber, which had remained sealed during this secret session, suddenly began to open. Council members turned in surprise and confusion. Who dares interrupt a closed session? Demanded the Grand Counselor. Ambassador Zreltix checked his communication device, his silvery skin paling further. We have an unscheduled arrival at the docking bay. A ship of unknown design. The council guards moved to high alert as the doors fully opened. In the doorway stood several figures of unmistakably human appearance. They wore simple blue uniforms with silver trim, walking with confidence despite being surrounded by the guards. Impossible, whispered Lorvin. They lack the technology to reach us. The lead human stepped forward, surveying the chamber with calm interest. On behalf of Earth and humanity, I extend greetings to the Galactic Council. We request formal diplomatic recognition. The council chamber fell into stunned silence. The vote to contain humanity had just been cast. And now, against all predictions, humans had arrived on their doorstep. The council voted to control humanity. But then humans walked in prior to. Silence gripped the council chamber as the human delegation walked toward the central platform. The leader, a tall man with short brown hair, moved with quiet confidence. Behind him followed 3 others, a woman with dark curly hair, a broad-shouldered man with a neatly trimmed beard, and a younger woman whose eyes darted around the chamber, taking in every detail. "I am Commander Daniel Foster of Earth," the leader announced. His voice carried effortlessly through the chamber. "With me are Dr. Olivia Martinez, our chief linguist, science officer William Clark, and security specialist Samantha Reed." The Grand Counselor recovered first. "How did you find this place? How do you understand our language?" Dr. Martinez stepped forward. "We've been monitoring your communications for approximately 6 Earth years. Your encryption was challenging, but not impossible to break." Gasps echoed around the chamber. The Galactic Council prided itself on superior technology. Their communication systems were thought to be unbreakable. Ambassador Lorvin's scales darkened with anger. "This proves my point. They spy on us." Commander Foster smiled slightly. "Just as you have been spying on us for decades. The ships you disguised as meteors in our upper atmosphere weren't very subtle." The council members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Their observation posts around Earth were supposed to be undetectable. "When did you develop faster-than-light travel?" Ambassador Zreltix asked. "Our last reports indicated you were at least 50 years from such capability." Science Officer Clark answered, 3 years ago. A team at our lunar colony made a breakthrough while studying unusual radiation patterns from a nearby pulsar." Clark pulled out a small device, causing council guards to tense. He merely projected a holographic image showing the design of their ship. "The Pathfinder was our first FTL vessel. This is our 5th-generation ship. We've made some improvements." Ambassador Ilara moved closer, fascinated. "Remarkable. You use gravitational folding rather than dimensional phasing." Clark nodded. "We found it more energy efficient." The Grand Counselor raised his hand for silence. "This is unexpected. We must discuss how to proceed. Commander Foster, would you and your team be willing to wait in our reception area?" Foster's eyes narrowed slightly. "With respect, we came for formal diplomatic recognition. We know the Council just voted on a resolution regarding Earth. We would prefer to discuss that directly." Shocked murmurs rippled through the chamber. How could they know about a vote that had happened minutes ago? Samantha Reed spoke for the first time, her voice calm but firm. "We also know that warships are being prepared. That would be an unfortunate first step in our relationship." Lorvin slammed his scaled fist down. "See how they threaten us." "Not a threat," Foster clarified. "An observation. We came in peace, with a single ship, unarmed. We hope that signals our intentions." Ambassador Ilara moved to stand beside the humans. "We should hear them out. The resolution has not yet been implemented." The Grand Counselor looked troubled. "Very well. Commander Foster, please explain why Earth deserves a seat at this council." Foster reached into his pocket and produced a small crystal cube. "This contains our formal petition, along with the coordinates of 17 Earth colonies beyond our solar system. We've been exploring the stars for longer than you realize." He placed the cube on the central platform, where it projected a map of human settlement across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. "We didn't come to ask for admission," Foster said quietly. "We came to introduce ourselves as neighbors. The question is not whether humanity is ready for the galactic community. The question is whether the galactic community is ready for humanity." The council chamber remained silent as the implications became clear. The vote to contain humanity had come too late. Humans were already among the stars. The meeting with the council had ended in uneasy agreement to continue discussions the following day. As the human delegation settled into their assigned quarters, Commander Foster stood by the window, watching the 3 suns of the council whirl set in sequence. A soft chime at the door broke his concentration. When he opened it, he found himself facing a hooded figure. "Ambassador Tralzar requests a private meeting," the aide whispered. "Now." Foster nodded to Samantha Reed, who checked her small scanner and gave a slight nod. "No obvious traps." "Lead the way," Foster said. The aide guided Foster through dimly lit corridors eventually stopping at an unremarkable door that opened into a simple room. Inside stood Ambassador Tralzar, a member of the Vexillian species known for their 4 arms and crystalline skin that changed color with their emotions. Currently, Tralzar glowed a cautious blue. "Commander Foster, thank you for coming. We must speak quickly." "About what, Ambassador?" "About the containment fleet that launched before your arrival. Admiral Corva received orders hours before your ship docked." Foster's expression remained calm, but his eyes hardened. Even though no official decision had been reached. Politics. Tralzar's skin shifted to a frustrated purple. Lorvin and others arranged it. "They fear your kind. And you don't." "I fear short-sightedness more." Tralzar moved closer. "The fleet moves toward your colony on Proxima Centauri. 8 battleships. They believe you won't detect them." Foster touched a small communicator on his wrist. "Clark, send message packet Omega to Earth. Priority 1. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Grace Peterson stood in the control center of Orbital Defense Station Alpha. The message from Commander Foster appeared on her screen, and she immediately activated the emergency protocols. "All stations, this is not a drill. Activate Defense Grid Beta. Stealth satellites to full scanning mode." Within minutes, Earth's hidden defensive network hummed to life. Thousands of small, nearly invisible satellites that had appeared to be space debris to Council observers now powered up their sensors. "Ma'am, we're detecting unusual energy signatures near Proxima Colony," reported an operator. "Show me," Peterson ordered. The screen displayed 8 large vessels moving in formation, still days away from the colony, but clearly on an intercept course. "They have no idea we can see them," Peterson said quietly. "Alert Admiral Castillo, and wake up the Guardians." Meanwhile, on the Council homeworld, a different kind of preparation was underway. Zendar, Chief Intelligence Officer for the Council Security Force, studied everything they knew about humans. He found the information disturbing. "They claim 17 colonies, but our records show no evidence of such expansion," he muttered to his assistant. "Perhaps our observation has been incomplete," his assistant suggested. "Impossible. We've monitored their system for decades." Zendar pulled up the data on human technological development. "Look at this progression. It's unnatural. They went from primitive computing to quantum networks in less than 30 years. Some species develop rapidly. Not like this. It's as if..." Zendar paused, his eyes widening. "As if they had help." At that moment, Dr. Martinez was making her own discovery. The Council had granted the humans limited access to their historical archives, and she had been searching through ancient records. "Daniel, you need to see this," she called to Foster when he returned. "What did you find?" She pointed to ancient text on her screen. "According to this, humans may have encountered Council species before. Look at these cave paintings from Earth, 15,000 years ago. The Council has them in their archives." The images showed unmistakable depictions of non-human entities interacting with primitive humans. "They knew about us all along," Foster said. "But why hide it?" Their conversation was interrupted as Science Officer Clark rushed in. "The Guardians have been activated," he reported. "Earth is preparing for possible conflict." Foster nodded grimly. "And Admiral Corva's fleet? Still on course for Proxima. They don't know we can see them." "Good," Foster said, his voice hardening. "Let's keep our advantages hidden as long as possible. Tomorrow, we show the Council just enough to make them reconsider their plans. But not everything." "Never everything," Martinez agreed, looking back at the ancient images on her screen. "A cultural exchange." Ambassador Lorvin's scales flared with suspicion. "Why would we agree to this?" Commander Foster stood calmly before the Council the next morning. "To build trust, we invite a delegation to visit Earth, see how we live, understand who we are." The Grand Counselor stroked his long beard thoughtfully. "This is an unusual request during such tense negotiations." "That's precisely why it's needed," Dr. Martinez added. Fear grows in ignorance. After heated debate, the council agreed to send 5 representatives to Earth. Ambassador Ilara would lead the delegation, joined by scientists and cultural experts, and 2 security officers who were actually intelligence agents. 3 days later, the mixed group arrived in Earth orbit aboard a human vessel. The visitors gasped as they approached the blue-green planet. "It's beautiful," Ambassador Ilara whispered, her translucent form glowing with excitement. The Earth delegation was led by Captain Frank Wilson, a stocky man with kind eyes and a firm handshake. "Welcome to our home," he said as they disembarked at the new Geneva spaceport. The visitors were shown gleaming cities with green spaces, underwater research facilities, and ordinary humans going about their lives. Everything seemed perfectly normal, perhaps too normal. Zendar, disguised as a cultural attaché, noticed something odd. The technology they show us is impressive, but inconsistent. Their transportation systems seem almost primitive compared to their medical technology. His partner nodded. They're hiding something. That evening, the delegates attended a concert of classical music. Ambassador Ilara was moved to tears by Bach's solo suites. Such beauty from such a young species, she commented to Dr. Martinez. "Music has always been important to humans," Martins replied. "It connects us across differences." While the concert continued, Zendar slipped away, activating a sophisticated scanning device hidden in his ceremonial pin. He detected unusual energy readings throughout the facility, but couldn't identify their source. The next morning, Captain Wilson took them to what he called a typical defense installation. The facility appeared modest: a few missile silos, aircraft hangars, and a command center with technology that seemed at least a decade behind what humans should possess. "This is your planetary defense," Lorgan's aide scoffed quietly. Wilson smiled. "One small part of it. Would you like a demonstration?" He led them to an observation platform overlooking a large field. With a simple voice command, Wilson activated a drill. Soldiers moved into formation, vehicles deployed, and aircraft took off. All standard military exercises. Then Wilson pressed a small button on his wrist device. Suddenly, the ground shifted. Hidden panels opened across the field, revealing advanced weapon systems that hadn't been there moments before. The air shimmered as cloaking technology deactivated, showing vessels hovering silently above them. Most shocking of all, a massive energy shield flashed into existence over the entire facility, then faded to transparency. "A small demonstration of our actual capabilities," Wilson said casually. "We find it useful to keep some technologies private." The delegates stood in stunned silence. Meanwhile, deep in space, Admiral Corvus' fleet approached Proxima Centauri. The admiral stood on his bridge, confident in his superior firepower. "We'll establish the quarantine and show these humans their place," he told his officers. "They'll have no warning." His tactical officers suddenly straightened. "Admiral, sensors detect multiple objects approaching at high speed." "Impossible," Corvus snapped. "There's no human presence in this region except their small colony." On the main screen, 12 sleek vessels appeared, surrounding the Council fleet. They had seemingly emerged from nowhere. "Admiral," his communications officer said, voice shaking, "we're receiving a message from the lid ship." The screen displayed a human woman in a simple gray uniform. "This is Captain Lisa Johnson of Earth Defense Force. Your fleet has entered restricted space without authorization. You will power down weapons and engines immediately." Back on Earth, Captain Wilson's communicator beeped. He listened briefly before turning to the shocked delegates with a smile. "Good news. It seems your Admiral Corva has safely encountered our Proxima defense fleet. Shall we discuss diplomatic relations now?" The council chamber erupted into chaos. News of Admiral Corva's fleet being surrounded by previously unknown human warships had reached the capital, throwing carefully laid plans into disarray. "This is outrageous," Lorvin shouted, his scales bright red with anger. "They threatened our ships." Ambassador Ilara, recently returned from Earth, stood firmly. Our ships entered their territory without permission after we had begun diplomatic talks. The humans showed remarkable restraint. The Grand Counselor raised his hands for quiet. The situation has changed. We must reconsider our approach. Several junior council races, who had previously remained silent during debates about humanity, now stepped forward. The Tellerate representative, a small furry being, addressed the chamber. "Perhaps some of us see opportunity where others see only threat," she said. "My people would welcome trade relations with Earth." "As would mine," added the Novan delegate. "Their medical technology alone could benefit billions across our worlds." Lorvin sneered. "You would sell out the security of our galactic community for profit. We would seek partnership instead of conflict," the Tellerate responded, something the dominant council races seemed quick to forget. The political landscape was shifting rapidly. After 3 days of heated debate, the full council prepared to receive Earth's official ambassador. Nicole Harris entered the chamber dressed in a simple blue suit, her gray-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun, her dark skin contrasting with the pale marble floor. "Distinguished representatives," she began, her voice calm but commanding. "I come before you today not to ask for Earth's admission to your council, but to propose a new framework for our relationship." She touched a small device on her wrist, and holographic displays appeared around the chamber. They showed evidence of council species violating their own laws, secret military bases in neutral zones, unauthorized mining operations on protected worlds, and surveillance outposts monitoring developing civilizations. For decades, various council races have broken the very principles this body claims to uphold. Harris continued. "Earth has documented these violations not to shame you, but to highlight that your current system is failing." The chamber went silent. Many delegates looked uncomfortable. Others whispered urgently to their aides. "How dare you come here and accuse us?" Lorvin began, but was interrupted by the Grand Counselor. "Is this evidence verified?" he asked quietly. "By your own security protocols," Harris confirmed. "We accessed your verification systems using the same method that allowed us to break your communication encryption." In the back of the chamber, the military representatives were growing increasingly agitated. General Drax of the Vraxian Defense Force whispered urgently to his colleagues. "We cannot allow this to continue. If they've accessed our secure systems, who knows what else they've discovered?" His associate nodded. "The fleet is ready to move on their homeworld at your command." Harris seemed to notice their conversation and smiled slightly. "I should mention that Earth has established 17 colonies beyond our solar system, as we previously stated. What we didn't mention is where they are located." The holographic display changed to show Earth colonies positioned near critical council supply routes, important resource worlds, and even one within a supposedly secret military sector. "We've been your neighbors for years," Harris said. "You just didn't notice us." The implications were clear. Any military action against Earth would leave council worlds and installations vulnerable to immediate counterattack. Ambassador Tralzar, whose secret meeting with Commander Foster had begun this chain of events, stood up. "I move that we formally recognize Earth and open full diplomatic relations." "I second the motion," Ambassador Ilara quickly added. Harris raised her hand. "Before you vote, I wish to be clear. Earth does not seek admission to the Council as it currently exists. We propose instead a new compact between our civilizations, not subjugation or control, but partnership." She placed a data crystal on the central platform. "Our terms are fair. We offer technological exchange, mutual defense, and open trade. But we will not be contained, limited, or controlled." The Grand Counselor stared at the crystal for a long moment before finally speaking. "We will need time to consider this proposal." Harris nodded. "Of course, but not too much time. Admiral Corvus' fleet awaits instructions, as does ours." As she left the chamber, the Council erupted into argument once more. The balance of power across the galaxy had shifted in ways few had anticipated, and it had only just begun. Admiral Corva paced the bridge of his flagship, the Victory. 3 days had passed since the human ships had surrounded his fleet. 3 days of humiliating standoff, while the council debated. "Sir," his first officer approached cautiously, "we've received new orders from General Drax." Corva's eyes narrowed. "Not from the council?" "No, sir. Directly from military command." Corva reviewed the encrypted message. His mouth curled into a thin smile. "Prepare all ships for combat. Target the human vessels and their colony." "But, sir, the diplomatic talks are a distraction," Corva snapped. "While politicians talk, warriors act. The safety of the council races depends on it." On the council homeworld, Dr. Martinez and Science Officer Clark worked frantically in their temporary research space. They had been granted limited access to ancient council archives and had discovered something alarming. "Look at this," Martinez pointed to symbols on her screen. "These records show humanity wasn't just contacted 15,000 years ago. We were deliberately held back." Clark studied the data. "A genetic modification program to slow our development." "Yes, but it failed." Martinez brought up another file. "According to this, humans have a unique neurological structure that resisted the changes. We evolved faster than they expected." Their discovery was interrupted when Commander Foster burst in. "We have a problem. Admiral Corva's fleet has powered up weapons. They're moving against our colony." In the council chamber, an emergency session had been called. Ambassador Harris stood calmly as angry accusations flew around her. "Your ships fired first," shouted a Vraxian delegate. "That is incorrect," Harris replied evenly. "Admiral Corva activated weapons systems and targeted both our vessels and our civilian colony. We responded defensively." The Grand Counselor looked troubled. "We have no confirmation of this. Our communications with the fleet have been cut off." "We can provide sensor logs," Harris offered, "but more importantly." A massive explosion shook the building. Warning sirens blared throughout the council complex. "What's happening?" demanded the Grand Counselor. His aide rushed in, face pale. "Military forces led by General Drax have launched a coup attempt. They've seized the defense headquarters and orbital platforms." Harris touched her communicator. "Foster, activate Contingency Plan Delta." Outside the council chamber windows, the sky suddenly darkened. Gasps filled the room as massive ships appeared in orbit, materializing out of nowhere. Dozens, then hundreds of human vessels revealed themselves, surrounding the entire council homeworld. "What is this?" the Grand Counselor whispered. "Insurance," Harris answered. "We came prepared for peace or war." Her communicator beeped. "Ambassador, Proxima situation resolved. Admiral Corva's fleet has been neutralized. No casualties." "No casualties." Lorgan's scales paled. "Impossible. Our fleet carried planet-killer weapons, which we disabled before they could be deployed," Harris explained. "Our technology allows us to selectively disrupt energy systems without destroying the ships themselves." On the main screen, footage showed Admiral Corva's mighty warships floating powerless, surrounded by smaller human vessels. "We could have destroyed them," Harris continued. "We chose not to. Just as we now choose not to attack your homeworld despite General Drax's unprovoked assault." The chamber doors burst open as armed Vraxian soldiers rushed in, weapons raised. Behind them came General Drax, his reptilian face twisted with rage. "This meeting is over," he snarled. "The military council now controls the government. The human threat will be eliminated." Before anyone could react, the soldiers suddenly froze in place. Their weapons fell from paralyzed hands. Dr. Martinez stepped into the chamber, holding a small device. "Neural disruptor," she explained to the shocked council members. "Non-lethal and temporary." Ambassador Harris stepped forward to face General Drax, who remained frozen in place. "The ultimatum is simple. The Council can choose peaceful relations with Earth, or it can continue on its current path. But know this, we cannot be controlled, contained, or defeated with your current technology. She turned to address the full council. We discovered something important in your archives. Your ancestors tried to prevent human advancement thousands of years ago. They failed. Instead of continuing that mistake, we offer you partnership in building a better galaxy for all our peoples. The Grand Counselor looked from the paralyzed coup forces to the human ships visible through the windows, then back to Ambassador Harris. It seems, he said slowly, that we have much to discuss about this new partnership. 1 week after the failed coup, the council chamber had been restored to order. The central platform, traditionally reserved for speakers addressing the full council, had been replaced with a round table. Around it sat representatives from both the council races and humanity. Ambassador Harris sat directly across from the Grand Counselor. Commander Foster stood behind her, while Dr. Martins and Science Officer Clark occupied seats to her left. The mood was tense but focused. The evidence is undeniable, the Grand Counselor said, his voice carrying through the chamber. General Drax and his conspirators acted without authorization. They have been removed from their positions and will face justice. Ambassador Lorvin, scales now a subdued blue-gray, nodded reluctantly. The Vraxian hierarchy apologizes for the actions of our military leaders. We acknowledge our misjudgment. Harris inclined her head slightly. Earth accepts your apology and looks forward to peaceful relations. The Grand Counselor cleared his throat. Now to the matter at hand. Ambassador Harris has proposed a restructuring of our galactic governance. The floor is yours, Ambassador. Harris stood and activated the central display. A holographic map of the galaxy appeared, showing both council worlds and the previously hidden human colonies. For too long, the council has operated on principles of control rather than cooperation, she began. Our proposal is simple, a new framework where all spacefaring species have equal representation. Impossible, objected a delegate from the back. Some races are clearly more advanced than others. Advancement should not determine rights, Harris countered. Earth has made contact with 7 non-council species in unexplored regions. The map expanded, showing new worlds and civilizations unknown to the Council. All were deemed too primitive for Council membership, yet all have valuable perspectives and resources. Ambassador Ilara leaned forward, her translucent form brightening with interest. These species were categorized as pre-contact by our exploration teams. Clark nodded. Yet we found them ready and eager for galactic citizenship. Your assessment protocols are flawed by bias. The chamber filled with murmurs as council members discussed this revelation among themselves. After several minutes, the Grand Counselor raised his hand for silence. What exactly does Earth propose? Harris touched her display, showing a new organizational structure, a galactic assembly of equal members, with specialized councils for trade, defense, science, and cultural exchange. No single species would dominate. As the council debated, a commotion arose at the entrance. Security officers surrounded a group of beings unlike any in the chamber, representatives of the newly contacted species. Their arrival had been planned by the humans as a demonstration of commitment to their proposal. A tall, 6-limbed being stepped forward. I am General of the Meridian Cluster. We stand with Earth in this proposal. For centuries, your council has classified us as primitive while extracting resources from our outer systems. We demand recognition. The council members looked shocked. Some appeared guilty. Ambassador Tralzar rose slowly. Perhaps it is time for change. For hours, the discussion continued. Technical details were debated, compromises suggested. Throughout it all, the human delegation remained calm and prepared, presenting solutions to every objection. Finally, the Grand Counselor called for a vote on the proposal to dissolve the current Galactic Council and establish the new Galactic Assembly as outlined in the Earth Accords. One by one, the Council members registered their votes. When completed, the results shown above the central table: 23 in favor, 4 opposed. The proposal passes, the Grand Counselor announced, his voice carrying a mixture of resignation and hope. The transition will begin immediately. As the chamber erupted in conversation, Dr. Martinez leaned toward Commander Foster. Do you think they understand what just happened? Foster smiled slightly. They think they've agreed to share power. They don't yet realize they've joined something far bigger than they imagined. Harris overheard and shook her head. That's not fair, Daniel. This isn't a human takeover. It's genuinely a new beginning. Of course, Foster nodded. But they still don't know everything about us. They'll learn, Harris said, watching as council members began mingling with the representatives of the newly recognized worlds. In time, 5 years had passed since the formation of the Galactic Assembly. The former council headquarters had expanded dramatically, with new wings dedicated to member species previously excluded from galactic politics. The central garden now featured plants from over 60 worlds, creating a vibrant symbol of diverse cooperation. In a quiet laboratory deep within the science complex, Dr. Olivia Martinez studied a strange artifact. The metallic sphere, covered in ancient symbols, had been discovered on an abandoned world at the galaxy's edge. Next to her stood Kavir, a Vraxian scientist who had once served Admiral Korva, but now worked closely with the human research team. The energy readings are unlike anything we've seen, Kavir noted, his scales shimmering with scientific excitement. Martinez nodded. It predates all known civilizations in our records. Even the oldest council archives have nothing similar. The door slid open as Commander Foster entered. Though still holding his military rank, he now served as Earth's security representative to the Assembly. 5 years of diplomatic work had added gray to his temples, but hadn't diminished his alert presence. Any progress? He asked. We've translated some of the symbols, Martinez replied. They suggest this device was created by a species called the Precursors. Kavir tapped a display. According to legend, the Precursors seeded the galaxy with life before disappearing millions of years ago. Most scientists considered it mere mythology. Until now, Foster observed. Martinez carefully turned the sphere, revealing a pattern that looked remarkably like a DNA helix. Daniel, we think this confirms something we've suspected since finding those ancient records. The council races and humans share a common origin. The attempted genetic modification of early humans, Foster said thoughtfully. It wasn't about holding us back. It was about steering our development. Exactly, Kavir agreed. My people believe themselves superior, but we're all variations on the same template. The question is, why did humans develop so differently? Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent message. Ambassador Harris requested their immediate presence in the assembly chamber. Something unprecedented was happening. When they arrived, the massive chamber was filled with representatives from all member species. Ambassador Harris stood at the central table alongside the former Grand Counselor and representatives from the newer member worlds. We've received a transmission, Harris announced as Foster and Martinez joined her, from beyond the galactic barrier. The chamber fell silent. No ship had ever successfully crossed the energy field surrounding their galaxy. Many had tried. None had returned. Harris activated the central display. A figure appeared, humanoid but clearly not human. Its skin had a metallic sheen, and its eyes contained swirling galaxies. People of the United Worlds, the being spoke in a voice that somehow translated perfectly to all listeners. We have watched your development with great interest. The experiment has yielded unexpected results. Experiment, the former Grand Counselor whispered. Your galaxy was seeded with life forms sharing a common genetic template. The being continued. Each species was given different attributes, different strengths. You were separated by vast distances to develop independently. Humans were the control group, left unmodified. Martinez gripped the edge of the table. The artifact is a key, the being confirmed, as if hearing her. One of many scattered throughout your galaxy. Together, they will enable you to cross the barrier when you are ready. Ready for what? Harris asked directly. To join the greater community, the being replied. There are millions of galaxies with sentient life. Yours is merely one garden among many. The implication stunned everyone present. Their galaxy, their entire history, had been part of a vast experiment. Why reveal this now? Foster asked. The being's expression shifted to something like approval. Because you broke the pattern. No other experimental galaxy has achieved true cooperation across species lines. The human capacity for adaptation, combined with the unique strengths of other species, created an unexpected harmony. As the being explained further, Martins noticed the artifact beginning to glow. Symbols across its surface lit up one by one. It's activating, she whispered to Foster. The being noticed as well. The first key has awakened. Find the others. When all are united, we will welcome you beyond the barrier. With those words, the transmission ended, leaving the assembly in shocked silence. Then, slowly, conversations began. Not of fear or confusion, but of wonder and possibility. It seems, Ambassador Harris said quietly to her companions, that our greatest journey is just beginning.